Good evening and welcome to the regular City Council meeting for the City of St. Peter. It is Monday, October 24th, 2022 at 7 p.m. This meeting is now called to order. Would all rise for the pledge? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Received a copy of the agenda. Are there any revisions or corrections to the agenda? Hearing none, is there a all those in favor of approving the agenda as distributed? Oh, we do. Yeah. All right, is there a motion to approve the agenda as distributed?
So moved.
Second?
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The agenda is approved. The minutes are printed in the packet on pages 5 through 9. Are there any revisions or corrections to the minutes? Hearing none, is there a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The minutes are approved as distributed. Next up, we have time on our schedule for visitors' comments. Are there any members of the audience who'd like to address the council on any agenda items? Hearing none. General visitor comments. Are there any members who'd like to address the council on any matter whatsoever? No, I don't hear any, so we're going to move on to approval of the consent agenda. The consent agenda begins with the memo on page 10 of the packet and concludes with a resolution on page 28. The consent agenda includes the following budgeted purchases in excess of $25,000. A vendor drive appeal for a used Ford F-150, an employee appointment, Margot Zelenz as a part-time circulation clerk at the wage listed. Miriam Gringas is terminated from city employment, and the schedule of disbursements for October 6th, 2022 through October 19th, 2022. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved. Second?
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion on the consent agenda? Hearing none. With a motion and a second, would you call the roll, please?
Councilmember Johnson,
Aye.
Councilmember Pettis,
Aye.
Councilmember Ram,
Aye.
Councilmember Sharstrom,
Aye.
Councilmember Rutherford,
Aye.
Councilmember DeVos,
Aye.
Mayor Melham.
Aye. The consent agenda is approved. We have no unfinished business before us tonight. The first item of new business is the adoption of a resolution codifying Parks Foreman job description. Hello, Pete.
Madam Mayor and City Council, at our workshop last week, we talked about Parks Foreman and how we plan to fill that with a long-time retirement here. There's some minor adjustments that need to take place here. Majority of those adjustments include some of the reorganization that we did a few years back with the forester working underneath the parks. So we've added some criteria into the Parks Foreman job description for that, as well as pesticide application. In the past, the Parks Foreman has had no certification, just wasn't part of the job description. There's a resolution on page 35, and I'm available for questions.
Questions for Pete? Hearing no questions, the resolution before us on page 35 calls for adopting a updated Parks Foreman position description. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Call the roll, please.
Councilmember Pettis,
Aye.
Councilmember Ram,
Aye.
Councilmember Sharstrom,
Aye.
Councilmember Rutherford,
Aye.
Councilmember DeVos,
Aye.
Mayor Melham,
Aye.
Councilmember Johnson.
Aye.
The resolution is approved. Next up, we have the adoption of a resolution modifying wastewater operator job description.
Madam Mayor and City Council, as you're aware, we had a resignation in the wastewater utility side. What we're asking for tonight is that you approve the resolution on page 41. Minor changes include a little longer timeline in the minimum qualifications for certification at the entry level. In the past, we had allowed 6 months to a year, and if you're coming out of school without experience or don't have any experience and hired off the street, it's very difficult to meet that requirement. And so we've now extended that a little bit to 18 months, which will allow you to come to work, entry level, and receive certification. Also, Underneath the requirements is a little bit of lab work. We do require our wastewater operators to know about the laboratory. We are going to advertise for a laboratory technician with a wastewater background in order to fill this position, and so we've added some of that criteria as well. There is a resolution on page 41, and I'm available for questions.
Any questions for Pete?
Well, I have a question.
Yes,
You just said when you advertise, you might word it a little bit differently. So when we're doing advertisements, it's not necessarily this verbatim, the job description?
So it will include the minimum and desired requirements. Maybe think of it this way, lots of places advertise now and say, best place to work, or happy to have you, or friendly environment. We'll be saying somebody with a lab background,
Right.
kind of idea.
Right. Thank you.
Any additional questions? Hearing none, the resolution before us calls for the adoption of an updated wastewater operator position description. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved? Second.
We have a motion and a second. Call the roll, please.
Councilmember Ram.
Aye.
Councilmember Sharpstrong.
Aye.
Councilmember Bluefett.
Aye.
Councilmember DeVos.
Aye.
Mayor Noel.
Aye.
Councilmember Johnson.
Aye.
Councilmember Pettis.
Aye.
The resolution is approved.
Thank you.
Our final item of new business is the adoption of a resolution approving new license applications.
Madam Mayor and members, the information starts on page 42 within your packet, and the page on, and the resolution on page 43. This is for a temporary, or I'm sorry, for a tree worker and a temporary gambling license. Tyler Dykey with Thomas Tree and Landscape has submitted a tree worker license application. And then Beth Salzel from the Minnesota Barbecue Society is asked to hold a raffle at the Nicolet County Fairgrounds. We've done the background check, and we find nothing that would prohibit these folks from receiving these licenses. Again, the resolution is on page 43.
Thanks, Todd. Questions for Todd? Hearing no questions, the resolution on page 43 calls for approving these two temporary licenses. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Call the roll, please.
Councilmember Sharpstrong.
Aye.
Councilmember Bluefett.
Aye.
Councilmember DeVos.
Aye.
Mayor Noel.
Aye.
Councilmember Johnson.
Aye.
Councilmember Pettis.
Aye.
Councilmember Ram.
Aye.
The resolution is approved. Thanks very much. We will move on to reports. I have nothing to report tonight, so Todd?
Mayor members, I have actually a couple of things, but I'm hoping that other people will take care of the reports for me. So first of all, as some of you may be aware, a week or so ago, SIMPA held its annual meeting in Bloomington. And Pete, if you want to say something, we had a member attend too. Brad, as I recall, you attended.
Yep.
And so maybe you'd like to start out by saying a couple of words about what you thought of it. Is it worthwhile expenditure of your time, those kind of things?
Well, I think I was challenged to drag this out a while, so no, just kidding. I did write something down. Number one, I'd say it was very informative, basically looking at the background, their thought process on, well, their decisions going forward for the next year. Honestly, I hate to put it this way, but in many ways, there was a lot of bad news on the challenges that they've dealt with in the last year. What previously, we'd been told were reliable, affordable sources of energy, coal and natural gas, are either not reliable or affordable or both. Coal, they're having transportation issues with the railway, which aren't, even if the labor issues are resolved, aren't probably going to be resolved anytime soon, which is affecting Sherco 3. Natural gas prices have skyrocketed due to geopolitical concerns. So we are looking at rate increases. There are positives. The Inflation Reduction Act this summer, big game changer for particularly utilities such as SIMPA, which previously we weren't eligible for 30% tax credits that either, well, quite honestly, a homeowner like me or an Excel were. Now they are getting a direct pay credit for renewable installation, solar, wind, whatever. That's a huge game changer for the ability of organizations such as SIMPA or even co-ops to actually move more towards the renewable energy. A couple of positives on our local. St. Peter. The city of St. Peter, or St. Peter Public Utilities, was one of 5. There are 18 SIMPA members. St. Peter was one of 5 SIMPA members for national recognition for RP3 for reliable public power. Despite a couple of terroristic squirrel incidents in September that knocked us out, the city does have a very good record as far as delivering power reliably. Think about how often you see power go down in storms, and we don't deal with that in St. Peter. We have a great grid going here. And then even better, there's the Smart Energy Provider designation, also for national providers. St. Peter was the only SIMPA member to receive this designation, and only one of 4 public utilities in Minnesota. So efforts in renewable energy, energy efficiency, reliability, the 4 things, the environmental and sustainability issues, communication, education, and customer experience. I think it's a good sign of just the work our electric utility is putting in, that we're, as I say, only 4 public utilities in Minnesota got it. And St. Peter was the only SIMPA member who got it. They talked about going to, they encouraged going to the APPA convention or next spring. I strongly recommend members go. It's very informative in Washington, D.C., and getting to meet elected officials or their staff. I did it this year. I would encourage other people to do it next year. And also just to go to events like this. I know there's a MISO, there's a MISO meeting on, or basically more of an education thing on Monday, that if you're able to tune in virtually, I would recommend doing that. So that's what I have.
Brad, thank you very much. Pete, do you have anything else, or we're done?
No, he covered it.
We're grateful that council members spend the time and energy, and we also want to mention too that certainly the relationship that we have with SIMPA and the other SIMPA members is really critical in what we do and how the overall organization provides energy with us effectively, efficiently. So that's an important part of this too. Yeah. Thanks, Brad, very much. Thanks, Pete. The next one I'm hoping Pete will cover, which is ash tree removal update for your Emerald Ash Borer program. We talked about this a couple times, and a week or 2 ago, we really started in full-scale operation based on the plan that you've had together. So, Pete, if you wouldn't mind saying a few words about that, I'd appreciate it.
You bet. Give you some numbers here to work with. Right now, we've removed 132 ash trees so far in 2022. As you know, we did 60 by contract early on. City staff did some earlier before May 1, and then after October 1st, we've done a few. We've injected 34 trees, so 34 on our list of what we're trying to save there is going to be injected. New trees planted, we've planted 91. We've got 120 in our inventory right now. We're going to still try to get some more in the ground here before freeze up. And we do have staff working on that. We have a couple of volunteers working with us. We have our tree service worker, and then the AmeriCorps supplied someone to help us with that, and they have been a great help. We've removed 37 stumps, and we've got about 76 more stumps that we've got to try to get out here before winter. Some will be a challenge, no doubt about that, but our goal is to keep working. If we get a nice dry fall here, we'll continue to work at those trees.
The reason we bring this up is because, of course, people notice this within your community. There's a lot of impact, and we received some phone calls, and I got to tell you, most people have been very cooperative and understanding about what we're doing and why we're doing this. And the research that was utilized is top-of-the-line research, and so we really believe that the plan that not only the tree board but the city council has approved is the right plan for our community. And again, thanks for everyone's cooperation, and thanks, Pete, for providing the information and making this stuff move forward.
Emily?
Question for Pete.
Sure.
You may not know off the top of your head, but I'd be really curious to know what types of trees you're planting to replace the trees that you're taking.
Oh, about 3 years ago, we approved a list of trees, and then we've put out for bids, and I couldn't tell you the exact numbers of different style, but we have a variety of about 40 trees that we select from. Then what we do is, where we've selected a planting plan, we've looked at the different sources and types of trees that are already there, and then try to offset that so that it's not all one type of tree in a certain area.
Sure. Thanks, Pete.
Any other questions for Pete? Thank you so much, and thanks to staff who are working really hard on this project.
Madam Mayor, the last thing that I have for you is request for executive session. There's a resolution on page 44. I'm asking for this to discuss real estate negotiations on a property at 2103 Klein Street. So this is near the hospital at the North Industrial Park on the north end. So again, the resolution is included in your packet on page 44. I do not anticipate coming back into open session to act on this, only to adjourn. So again, I would only expect you to come back into open session for adjournment.
All right, thank you. The resolution is on page 44 of the packet calling for a closed session. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved. A second.
We have a motion and a second. Call the roll, please.
Councilmember Brunzart.
Aye.
Councilmember DeVos.
Aye.
Mayor Noel.
Aye.
Councilmember Johnson.
Aye.
Councilmember Pettis.
Aye.
Councilmember Webb.
Aye.
Councilmember Shelstrom.
Aye.
The resolution is approved, and we will adjourn to closed session at 7:15 PM.
The Traverse de Sioux Room, our normal location. Not the record, but a good effort.